Welcome back, everyone, and it's the Q2 2025 earnings call for Joby. I think there's been a bit of panic here already in the chat. I'm with my two co-hosts. We've obviously got the biggest bull in ACHR, and we've got Dylan there, top right, and then the one, the only, the fan favorite. We've got Mark B, and we've got quite a lot to unpack, and we're sort of up against it already. So I do apologise for us coming on a little bit later. But how have you guys been anyway? We'll just do a quick catch up.
Dylan, you first.
I know we're time crunch. Very excited, even though I'm the Archer Bull. I'm an eVTOL Bull, so super excited to hear the Joby earnings call. And I'll kick it to Mark. How you doing?
Doing good. I rushed home just so that we could have availability to do this. So I'm excited. This is kind of the day we've been waiting for. We've been talking about it for a month now, and we certainly got a lot of content to cover just in the last week and then just in the last few minutes. So let's get going.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump into, just before we look at the shareholders letter, I want to jump into some information that's come out about the TIA testing, and we were actually discussing it just before the stream, and I think it's something that all eVTOL investors will need to know, and it's something that we were discussing, mentioning that it will be sort of an indicator on the length of time left in this process to get the eVTOLs over the line, part certified, and just let us know sort of where we sit. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring this up. 2 seconds.
Yeah. And while you're bringing it up, I've said it, and I put it up on X. I do feel this will be the most important earnings call for the eVTOL industry, at least in my opinion, that we've yet had. So super excited. But yeah, Reece, I'll let it kick it off.
Yeah. So just to confirm, can you guys see that it says Joby's first conforming aircraft heads to final assembly in preparation for TIA flight testing?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. So just to give everyone a bit of a background on this, Joby Aviation, a company developing electric air taxis for commercial passenger services, today announced it is preparing for final assembly of its first conforming aircraft intended for type inspection authorization flight tests. So from reading that, just that line alone, they haven't been into TIA testing yet. And then TIA flight testing of a conforming aircraft is a convergence of 3 critical initiatives within Joby that are aligned with the Federal Aviation Administration standards, relevant test plan approvals, a design that meets the FAA standards, and the ability to manufacture the conforming design. And this is something that you've brought up with us, Mark, and you said that this was going to be a telltale sign, and it would sort of give us an indication on where were we on the program? Are we right next to the finish line? Or where are we in the race? Are we right next to the finish line, or are we still 200 yards to go?
Well, we're at this. This is the final phase of certification. So of getting to get TC and type certification, and then entry into service. From the picture, you see just the aircraft fuselage. So let's break this down. It's in final assembly, so it's not an extremely complex airframe, and obviously what you see right here, they still got to get the wing on it. They got to pack all the systems in, but they know how to do that. So it's not like they're guessing at this point. But this is their first. This aircraft here, what you see, theoretically is what they could take through type flight test and get type certification, and then they could demod that airplane and deliver it to a customer, or you could have passengers theoretically flying on that aircraft you see right there for revenue generating flights. Now, if you break that out into a timeline, I'd say, and we'll take them at their word, they say they're going to have it assembled in the next few months. And their pilots are going to be flying it. Their test pilots are going to be doing flights by the end of the year. Whether they'll have FAA pilots flying it and actually doing TIA testing by the end of the year, That's yet to we'll know a lot more in the next earnings call. But this is an excellent line in the sand. Like we've got a demarcation line, and we can start projecting outward historically what it typically takes to get from this point to entry into service. And it's probably going to be, I'm guessing, especially with the accelerated schedule and the fairly, I mean, I don't want to say it's a simple aircraft, but it doesn't have as many systems as what other aircraft have. So I would expect they could get through TIA testing in really, really advanced or really, really accelerated schedule would be 6 months. So that would kick us out to a year from now. They've got TC to 9 months, and that would be, later into early or September, October of next year. But with that, as said as well, if they don't have any hiccups in TIA testing, they can now start ramping up their manufacturing to match this conformed aircraft. So when you get TC in a year, you could theoretically have 25 of these sitting on ready to take off and ready to start doing revenue generating flights. So in my opinion, it's a good sign. I would have liked to have them come on and said, yeah, we've been TIA testing and we've got a tech conforming aircraft and we've just been secret about it. But
yeah,
but this is also a huge statement for Joby. They're in the final phase now, and they now just need to execute. But once again, I see that they are selling results. Every day you're seeing hardware that is going towards getting them to the finish line.
No, 100%. I'm just going to quickly jump into some comments because there's been quite a few comments since 7 o'clock GMT. Fun with Emelina said, let's go, Joby. We're going to 25, so big expectations.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dylan. Love that at Fun with Emelina. Should be a great earnings call and show today. Abby Sheck said, Joby will miss earnings. You heard it here first. Emmett said, you must be selling then. Abby Sheck said, I don't have a position. I might copy it if it drops below 15 though. Emmett disagreed and said, no chance. Emmett said, you sold when it went up too early. Now you may not get back in. Abhishek said, I don't even have had a position. Emmett said, then why are you here?
No, everyone's welcome.
Yeah, to see whether it goes to 15 or not. Vast CNC's back. I like to live dangerously. I bought in a new position ahead of earnings, so that's big conviction there from Vast CNC. He's letting them hang.
He's my high conviction man. I like Vast. That's a very good gentleman right there.
Abhishek says about hey at Vast NC, bro is everywhere. Why did you cop right now? It will most likely miss earnings, in my opinion. And it said it won't matter if he's in for long term, 16, 18, 20 won't matter. I think that's true, to be fair. Got 500 at 11. I'm chilling. At this moment in time, that's a great buy-in as well. That's probably earlier in this year. It's low risk when you're in cheap and a chance to get rich long term. I think that's what that's something that we're all here aiming to do. Holding to 2040 could be an absolute massive market by 2040. We might actually have our own by that point.
Yeah,
it won't just be flying them up. This one just needs patience. Where's the gang? Well, we're back now. And we will be going into the shareholder letter, just clearing the comments because I think we're going to have quite a few in today's stream. New Blade, shout out to New Blade. He's back this week. Hi, all. Dylan, you're there. Remember ACHR Q1. If you didn't sell at over 20, don't go in panic mode. Abhishek said, told you 5% down after hours, 7%, 10%, 8. Then Emmett said, ain't going to 15. These two really were having
I like the battle. I like it.
Yeah, should be around 16, 17. I'll copy if it stabilizes. Brightstone, forget if I had the tab open, sound scared the out of me. Abhishek, yeah, same. 5% recovery, back to 18. What the 7% recovery, insane. There's literally nothing that we already know in the letter. Oh, so that's maybe a little bit of indication we're about to go through. And then obviously, Dylan, thanks for everyone for joining today. New Blade, hands yellow, heart red, hands yellow, heart red, hands yellow, heart red. Mac is back. Hello, all. Tom Mintz is back. Hello, everyone. Abhishek, 18.6. Oh my God. New Blade, they chase all the stop loss and bought back. And then Brightstone says, because I just started trading, I was focused on building wealth, taking profits at 15.30 a pot. Overall, I'm £328 profit overall. But if I stayed sat up on Joby, we would have doubled or tripled my wealth. That's probably something about staying in long. But that's how everyone starts out. I think you learn the lessons along the way, Brightstone. Absolutely. But you should never turn your nose up at profit. And then Abhishek says he really dropped 10% and recovered 8%. What a swing. But yeah, without any further ado, let me jump straight into the shareholders letter.
Well, and while you do that, Reece, too, just remember for anybody as we go through these earnings, your first 1, 3, and 5 minutes, I mean, these algos you're gonna watch it on a chart and it's gonna drop down red and then pop green. So yeah, everybody's gonna have their own perspective versus the long-term holding versus after hours trading and such. But if you're the long-term holder, do just kind of let those 5-10 minutes or so, let the algos kind of finish out what they're doing, and then look, digest and get into shareholder letter. So yeah, and it's awesome you got it up, Reece, too. That's so cool.
Nope, yeah, completely agree there. Dylan, I wouldn't panic. Try not to be emotionally trading, and I would say listen to the call, digest what you hear on the call, and sort of make your own mind up.
It's after hours, guys. Have a cocktail.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not selling or buying now. You're in.
Yeah, this is not a cocktail, but I will be drinking my Sprite with you guys tonight. So yeah, we're gonna after hours relax and have a great one.
That's it. Yeah, and then after the call, we'll say our own thoughts on it. It'll be a very open forum. We'll discuss what we think and what we've taken from it. And just to highlight this again, because I think it's something we had at the ACHR call earlier on in the year, where just because everyone starts panicking in the chat, I would advise you not to make any rash decisions and maybe wait until the opening bell tomorrow before you start making decisions. But yeah, without any further ado, let's jump into the Q2 2025 highlights. So they completed 21 full transition flights in Dubai flight test campaign to validate commercial market readiness, collaborating with the L3 Harris to develop a new class of aircraft for the US defense. The Department of Defense has requested $9.4 billion in its financial year 26 budget to advance autonomous and hybrid aircrafts. Abdul Latif Jamil and ANA agreements explore deployment of approximately 300 aircrafts. Over 50% complete on the FAA side of stage 4 of certification and first TIA conforming aircraft preparing for final assembly. Planned acquisition of Blade passenger business expected to accelerate commercialization in key markets. 991 million of cash and short-term investments, and they expanded their manufacturing footprint to double production capacity to 24 aircraft per year. So there's quite a few big items here that I think maybe that because we're sort of being drip fed it, that we've kind of overlooked it. But a few of these items here, you can sort of see why the price has risen so much. I think that the defense does seem to be stepping up now, and that hybrid obviously seems to be is going to be at the forefront of it. What do you guys? What's your guys' thoughts on the big news that we've had in this quarter?
I honestly think it has been great for Joby. It's been some interesting acquisitions. The piloted test flight in Dubai, I think, is amazing. I mean, that is, again, you're not showcasing, you're showing off what your aircraft can do. especially in the market in which you're looking to enter as well, with some commercialization aspects for the UAM. The Blade acquisition, I'm really curious to see what the chat and the crowd have to feel about that as well. And speaking with Reece before we got on live, I was kind of going back and forth with the thoughts of, by acquiring Blade at this time, is that a good way to kind of get a customer book? So you're still acquiring the customers that are familiar with the Blade operating system and that mode of transportation. And then from there, again, in the eVTOLs with the scale and the ramp up of manufacturing, is it going to be something where maybe you have 10 S4s that are available on the Blade network to use? So the rider at that point has that choice between going eVTOL versus traditional heli, and then you continue to phase those out of Blade as you get more in manufacturing and production, and then ergo you have your infrastructure that also has been used by Blade, where you can now integrate that into your urban air mobility network and your air taxi service, and then having that ability to already have those planned routes where Blade has been taking their passengers to, I think huge bonus as well. And then my only also thought to the chat on that is it did come pretty soon after the 250 million from Toyota. So just kind of curious how the chat feels on them deciding to delegate that cash out to Blade. So basically delegating out half of the Toyota money to Blade kind of this early on and getting it. So that's where I'm interested in some of the financial results as well, to see by taking that quarter off, because really we're at about 95 to 110 spend rate on both of these companies per quarter. So it'd be interesting as you take on that acquisition, you lose about a quarter of R&D and manufacturing, but if it's something that's going to bring profit revenue through the door, you're going to make that up, and you're going to have that by the time that time comes too as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how that deal works. I'm not sure if they're sort of trying to just use their order book, or maybe their existing customers, or their existing system maybe, to try and streamline that process once we get to that type certification, maybe in a year's time. It'll be very interesting. I wonder if they'll bring it up during this call. I imagine there might be a question or two at the end that we need to go through.
Sorry. It's so exciting. I never mean to talk over you. It's like this stuff is so exciting. And with that note in there, and across the whole eVTOL space. So, but this is the Joby call. So good for Joby, where we're seeing that they're announcing the Department of Defense has requested the 9.4 billion for its FY26 budget, specifically to advance autonomous and hybrid aircraft. And what are we covering? Hybrid aircraft, and that possibility of autonomous aircraft as well. So it'll be interesting to hear. Again, your federal budget usually gets they're going to figure it out a little bit earlier, but your turnover is September 30th is your last date of spend. So your FY26 is going to kick off October 1st. So that's when that trench of money will open up. So it'll be interesting if maybe Duffy, or if anybody starts to drop some clues to us eVTOL fans on how much of that 9.4 billion may make it across the table for this industry.
That's actually a really good point, because we're literally around the corner now from
That is true. That is true. That is
just
true.
over 7 or 8 weeks. This one's quite an interesting part, and I think this might be up your alley, Mark. So they're saying about leadership on regulatory approval. We're setting the pace for the industry. We've completed structural testing and are prepping for the final assembly of our first FAA-conforming aircraft intended for type inspection authorization. When this conforming aircraft is completed, it will enter the final phase of FAA type certification, which involves the FAA test pilots directly evaluating the aircraft's performance and safety. We're aiming to have 5 of these aircraft for this phase and expect FAA to test the pilots to begin flying them next year. And expect the FAA test pilots to begin flying them next year. We're also more than 50% complete on the FAA side and over 2/3 complete on the Joby side of stage 4 of the certification process. And this is the kind of thing I think we were actually asking from ACHR in terms of just some sort of data to explain where we were coming along with it. So at the moment, I guess this is the TIA testing that we were like discussing earlier on, and at the moment they're only 50%.
Yeah,
and they're only 50% of the way
like
there.
Stage 4 is going to be your company testing with company conformal aircraft, and now with the going into Stage 5 is verification. So that is handing it over to the FAA or working in conjunction with the FAA test pilots to just confirm everything that you set out to prove from a function of safety and performance now complies with all of your internal testing and analysis. So you typically don't go into TIA testing until you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to pass it. So I don't want to say it's a formality because it is a gauntlet, but I would say a lot of the hard work has already been done, and they are and now they're starting to get into the verification stage. Here they say their FAA pilots will be begin flying next year. So again, that gives us that roadmap of, all right, they start flying right at the beginning of the year, and they're going to use 5 aircraft to do this. This is just their first conforming aircraft. They'll start adding more into the test phase, and then you can start doubling or tripling the beat rate of the amount of tests that you need to complete, because you can do it with multiple aircraft. So again, you're going to see like Stage 5 has a little bit to it already. That's probably because they did some TIA testing on an Ironbird or in a SIL. That could be like gauntlet testing your motors and just the avionics suites and whatnot. But where the rubber really meets the road is now in Stage 5 in verification. So
I think I'm quite a bit of a sucker just for things being presented quite nice and clearly, and very it's just very definitive. Like it's 70%, it's 53%, and it was just a complaint I did have with ACHR in the previous earnings call, where it was all a bit smoke and mirrors, like a bit of we're doing well and we're further along than what we were previously.
Show us the numbers, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then this is this is just making it very clear and obvious of this is where we are. And then the next earnings call we could compare, couldn't we, and see what sort of progress was it and how far did they make it. But I'm very impressed with that.
This is the beauty of certification of aircraft, is that it is a very, very well-defined process. And you can't necessarily, I guess, when you start getting into the TC and TIA process, it's very well defined, and and those are things you want to promote your progress in it once you reach that point. So it'll be interesting to see what ACHR comes out with, and ACHR says this is where we're at and where we're going to start, because now Joby has kind of set the pace.
Yeah,
and the question is ACHR going to be able to pull ahead or keep pace? I wouldn't necessarily say pull ahead, but can they keep pace and match the similar certification progress results, or are they going to have? Will they maybe pull back a bit on what their certification will be?
Just
similar to what Beta has done.
And I like how you say that, Mark, how it does kind of put the roadmap. And I don't know, Reece, maybe you can kind of hone in whether it was 3 months, 6 months ago, or even more recently, where we're kind of having those questions over, having the first mover advantage. Yes, always thinking that's the good thing, but wondering if there is one of the eVTOL companies that's starting. And again, we've always gone with Joby as ahead in the cert process and will most likely be the first to complete the certification process. But is it laying a roadmap or some sort of foundation for the second and the third movers in this industry to unfortunately, Joby kind of the guinea pig, but doing a very good guinea pig of, getting through the rights and wrongs of what may go on in the final certification. But to Mark's point, what I believe I could say back is it does not sound like they're going to take an aircraft to that certification process until they've really done all those in-house testings.
Well, the FAA won't even accept it until it's ready.
Wow.
So this is just it. Is like when you go to the FAA has to accept your cert plan. Then they have to go through, and then you go and you do your testing. If you're not ready, we discussed this a little bit, a couple times earlier. Be like, well, could they just copy what Joby did? Could a different company just copy what they did and kind of,
I'll hold my hand up for that one. That was me.
Okay.
The FAA would be like, get out of here. Call us when you're for real. So you got to be, everyone has to run their own race in this respect. There's no drafting.
I like that.
So, I think all of this here basically can codify that unless Joby has some bad event in TIA testing, which in this day and age, if you get this far along in the process and then you have a major setback in TIA, there should be no excuse for it, simply because with engineering capabilities, with analysis, the days of the right stuff when test pilots just went out and flew by the seat of their pants.
Oh, wow.
It's not like that anymore. Like a test pilot should go through a test card and expect to just, all right, we're going to go hit these test points and the aircraft is going to function as expected. And that's how you want it to work. And that's already been figured out and analyzed. So I think we can say, end of year. The question was, will they make the Olympics? Will they make 2028? I think you can theoretically be seeing Joby's at being showcased next year at the World Cup.
I was just about to say, So they'll probably have a few that will be ready. But will it be commercial at that point, or will it be too much?
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. But it doesn't mean you can't have your experimental aircraft and you can be flying people on it and it's not revenue generating. And you are doing an enormous PR pitch at that point.
PR that is literally what I was thinking. And just getting your eyes on it. The fact that it's going to be the first mover advantage, and you probably will have a significant time period until the next enters.
So I bet you Archer will be there too. Archer could come along. It would still be able to showcase their aircraft too, because neither of them will be through certification yet. It's kind of interesting. The World's Fair is going to be a little bit of the world. The World Cup is going to be kind of like the World's Fair. What it used to be, where the United States be able to really showcase this new technology.
Yes.
So we're just getting started. It's exciting.
I'm curious, Mark, and Reece too, feel, with kind of any sector or anything like that. And I'm, asking Mark too, just in the avionics and aviation space of it, when you're being a first mover in something like this, and it's not just I guess air taxi through a traditional helicopter. So I guess we would be considering this an emerging industry with it being in the eVTOLs. Is there any, and I'll just say it broad and kind of not as smartly. Being the first mover, is there an extra pressure on you because you are now the one that is, conducting that true eVTOL air taxi network, and you're maybe setting a true market confidence for those other companies entering in there? Or is it just kind of, hey, we're here, we're going to do our thing, and if we survive, we survive, and if we fail, then the rest will fail with it, or something like that?
Yeah, so I think that I hear what you're saying with Joby being a first mover, but I also think Joby has spent so much time in their development phase, and they have thought out so well how they want this market to look and shape this market, and grow into what the market is going to be. They've done a fantastic job with just forecasting what everything is going to be. mean, it's fantastic that they are the first mover because they're really bringing out one of the best products, in my opinion, at this point. And the pressure's on. You don't want to you don't want to be at stage center in fall, but they're but the pressure is always on in aircraft development. The stakes are always really high.
That's a good, that's very fair.
So it's and the stakes are going to be high for anybody that's going to get into this endeavor. So
and maybe another question for you guys, and obviously the chat, if you have any thoughts or opinions on this, I would love to know. But with Joby entering defense with L3 Harris, and not even in the sense of a competition or battle, again, a Archer partnership versus a Joby partnership, but just kind of curious how the Joby community has been feeling over the L3 Harris partnership, where you do have that more legacy backed government partner. So again, you're having that partnership where, again, speaking to the shareholder letter, you're going to hope that also rolls into the DoD contracts with the scale up in the amount of the 9.4 billion, hopefully allotted to the budget, maybe about 4.5-5 billion. That would be nice, even if they cut that in half. But yeah, it's and maybe would you say, Mark, maybe an obvious connection would be through the work out of Edwards and maybe some connection there. And I know you were speaking to where a lot of the head decision makers, basically, where Joby was testing the aircraft out of. I'm sorry, I don't remember the flight location.
Yeah, in Florida at MacDill Air Force Base.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And so, yeah, just kind of one of those things where, again, Joby's been hard at work, had delivered the aircrafts to Edwards, and maybe got, MacDill the eyes on as well, and leading them into maybe getting those handshakes done, and L3 Harris being the selected partner to go with Joby. So, so I know it's a broad, random question thing.
Yeah, I think Joby has been laying the groundwork for the last couple of years, or for the last 10 years. This has been a technology test bed or a technology incubator, and they've been quietly just laying out that, we'll call it a runway for lack of or helipad or whatever we want to call it, vertiport. They've been laying out their proverbial vertiport for the last 10 years. And now it is all starting to come to fruition. And this is just it too. Like right now, they're going forward with commercialization and a revenue stream in the commercial world. But with the L3 Harris announcement, that's they could come out next quarter and literally be like, yes, the funding was approved, and we just got our first tranche of, $750 million.
That's very true.
Now their balance sheet just went from negative earning, it's like, oh, we're negative, and also boom, welcome to you're welcome to the world of, we are now in positive cash flow and we're not looking back.
That's a great point.
So
that's a great point.
That is what's going to happen next. That's what we should. That's what I think we as investors could expect. Is when are you going to get your first tranche from the government, and start working with L3 to deliver aircraft. So, and we spoke about this too. Joby will most likely deliver the airframe and deliver the flying craft. L3 Harris will be the militarization aspect of it, where they obviously they'll be integrating the flying aspect of the aircraft to what Joby's capabilities are, but turning it into a militarized craft or militarized asset. L3 Harris will then go and instrument it and I guess you could say fill it out,
kind of retrofit it to whatever standard needs it may have at that time.
Right. That's right.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That is really cool. And it's nice to get that partnership, and then to have that announcement of that possible FY26 budget to get that, like you're saying, prior to that budget being announced.
Yeah.
And like you said, the money starts coming out. Yes, you already have that government partner.
And again, it's when you win a DoD contract, they give you a big chunk of money right up front. It's not, hey, we need to get this delivered. I mean, there will be obviously it's a rewards based system, but this is huge. This is huge that they announced this.
Just one question I did want to ask you there, Mark, and this is on the acquisition of Blade. One of the business highlights they've brought up is a network of 12 urban terminals, and then the dedicated lounge and terminal bases at JFK, Newark. In terms of them the routes that they have from these terminals to one another, if hypothetically, if Joby Joby own Blade, can they just use that route?
Of course. Yeah.
So they wouldn't have to go through any sort of I don't know, approvals or because it's obviously aviation. It's just as straightforward as that route will be clear.
Well, I think with eVTOLs now, where you're going to have dedicated, like Blade, when you're a high net worth person on Wall Street and you live out in the Hamptons, you're basically the Wolf of Wall Street, and you're catching a helicopter home every night, because that does exist. You're going to go down to the heliport on the Lower East Side and jump in your helicopter, and it's going to fly you out to the Hamptons. That will be replaced with a Joby. But it's not like those are defined routes, it's not like it's not like you look on an aviation chart and it says don't fly here because a Blade helicopter could be flying through. It's more of a they're going to fly most likely defined flight patterns, especially if there's a lot of autonomy involved. But what I view the Blade acquisition is you're basically already buying a very well established customer base. And you are going to now be taking that customer base and saying, listen, here is this, technology you have been using. And now hey, you've been lighting your house with whale oil. Here's a light bulb. And now you flip a switch instead of, it's going to be a completely new experience for the customer. And I think the Blade acquisition is exactly that. It's going to say to these customers that are used to using helicopters to get from A to B, and it's now going to say, and it's only going to help them, because these guys are going to go back and just be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this new technology that's come out. And they can now use all of Blade's infrastructure for their Jobies. So it's fantastic.
We've got obviously the calls coming now in a few minutes, so I'm just going to quickly catch up on the comments they're building up. I think we've got a bit carried away here. Abhishek is saying absolute cinema. New Blade says classic retail Blade. New Blade says back at 125 EMA. Your friend Terry's back. Afternoon, Terry. Zed Stack is back as well. Only an Archer and Hover by route for Joby. It's the all tides. What the hell is the saying? I've lost it. Been a long day. New Blade, Terry. Sleek TV said Liam's trying to sign in. Well, let's hope he can get in before the call. Timmy, Joby is making all the right moves. The bag of holding, of course. I don't think he'd miss an earnings call. Do you think that they will say the range and payload of the conforming aircraft will be, or not mention anything about that? Blade acquisition is a great move, paid by Toyota cash. That's what Dylan was mentioning earlier on, and I completely agree with that. 9,000 chairs and buying still.
Hey.
Blade is also going to be using Joby's aircraft for the medical division. The medical division provides most of the revenue.
Saw something in that as well. Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
just
great
another,
comment, Billy Goats. Yeah, great
Thanks,
comment.
yeah, just another one to add to the list. So it's like a winner's the call. It's literally in 3 minutes.
And
New blade, and they'll be able to pretend to make revenue next quarter after purchase is validated. Abhishek says, "What the Jewel?"
WTF? Yeah.
Oh, I don't. Duolingo, I think maybe.
Then 23% up in after hours.
Let me give a quick shout out to I watch a morning open with Amit. Amit is investing. He's covered Palantir for a while, but him and his buddies are doing an ETF. Duolingo was in his, so if that was the true ticker, it was really down. Had him in second place. So hopefully with that boost, maybe he'll catch up to Matt Money and maybe pop to number one. So love you, Amit. You always do great. So just a quick shout out to you. So sorry about that.
I love that, then. James Rosendale was saying, "Hi guys, great to join you live." In an interview, Blade also said they would work with Joby to supply aircraft for their medical transport business, which remains independent. So this is the brilliant thing about we come to this chat and everyone's done their own due diligence, and it just becomes all together for anything that we have missed, because that was something I haven't.
The medical logistics is being maintained by Blade.
Class. Absolutely class. The Blade acquisition should pay off in the long run. I think it was a great move. I think that's coming from all of us here. I think we've seen it as the same. Brightstone, I started streaming Halloween last year, but not really start until May this year. So 3 months trading, a 2-year return is 28% for 3 months work. Wondering if I keep backing Joby or move on. Well, we won't ever tell you financial advice, but we are big into the eVTOL space. So yeah, in my own personal account, I'm adding as much as I can at the moment because of, I think someone mentioned the comment there about holding to 2040. I imagine if you held to 2040, it will look a lot better than it does today. And that's probably the best way to put it. When it passes commercializes and becomes a mainstream transport, do you guys expect stock value to shoot up much higher than $20? Well, I'd hope so.
Not financial advice.
You want my forecast?
I hope so. Yes. I would be bitterly disappointed if it was still at $20.
Bryce, it'll be at $20 after it splits 3 times.
There you go. I like that. I like that one.
Tom Mizzelli, they also get the CEO of Blade with the deal. New Blade, the FAA certification should take it to 25 plus, and unfortunately, I'm gonna have to catch up with the rest of them after.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah, nice. Get that earning music started. Curious, and if anybody wants to put it in the chat, curious if anybody did a retail investor question through any of their brokerage apps. So, as we'll chat for a few afterwards as well. If you happen to have any question that you thought you might hope to get brought up, throw it in the chat and we'll
just
see.
Checking. Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear that?
Yep, I can hear it.
Loud and clear. How about, and anybody in the chat, feel free to let us know if it's coming through good there too, please. Yeah. But yeah, super excited. Thank you everybody for spending your afternoon with the Hustle Brothers to watch the live Joby earnings call. I hope you guys are as excited as I am, and yeah, this is a really cool thing too.
Greetings and welcome to the Joby Aviation second quarter fiscal year 2025 financial results conference call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. A question and answer session will follow the formal presentation. If anyone should require operator assistance, please press *0 on your telephone keypad. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded. It is now my pleasure to introduce Teresa Lucio, Head of Investor Relations. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Joby Aviation's second quarter 2025 financial results conference call. I'm Teresa Thurathiel, Joby's Head of Investor Relations. We will begin the discussion with remarks from JoBen Bevirt, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, and Rodrigo Brumana, Chief Financial Officer. Paul Sciarra, our Executive Chairman, will be joining us later for Q&A. Please note that our discussion today will include statements regarding future events and financial performance, as well as statements of belief, expectation, and intent. These forward-looking statements are based on management's current expectations and involve risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from those expressed or implied. For a more detailed discussion of these risks and uncertainties, please refer to our filings with the SEC and the safe harbor disclaimer contained in today's shareholder letter. The forward-looking statements included in this call are made only as of the date of this call, and the company does not assume any obligation to update or revise them. Also, during the call, we'll refer both to GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures. A reconciliation of non-GAAP to GAAP measures is included in our Q2 2025 shareholder letter, which you can find on our investor relations website, along with the replay of this call. And with all of that said, I'll now turn the call over to Joby.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you everyone for joining us today. The last quarter was one of our best yet. We're delivering at an exceptional level on all fronts, on certification, on manufacturing, and on commercialization. And we have so much to talk about that I'm going to get straight into it. The progress we've reported this quarter is unparalleled, supported by an incredible team, years of planning, and a wealth of flight testing. To put our flight testing into context, in July alone, we completed 76 separate flights with 4 different aircraft in 3 different locations around the world. These included both piloted and remotely piloted flights with vertical takeoffs, full transitions, and vertical landings. And the amount of flight testing matters because it's the core of our certification effort. It's the way you drive maturity into an aircraft program, whether for commercial or defense use, and it's the way you wring out technical issues to mitigate expensive changes later in the certification process. Our team is delivering day in and day out, and they know that if you're in the business of flying aircraft, you have to actually fly aircraft. In stage 4 of certification, we're now 70% complete on the Joby side and more than 50% complete on the FAA side, up 10 points from last quarter. And we're gearing up for stage 5. During this stage, Joby and FAA pilots will fly our aircraft to validate all of our certification work ahead of receiving a type certification. And I'm pleased to say, as we announced this morning, the first of 5 aircraft for TIA flight testing is headed to final assembly. And we remain on track to start flying our TIA aircraft with Joby pilots this year and to begin TIA certification flights with FAA pilots early next year. For context, this is a milestone you don't reach at the flip of a switch. There are very few, if any, certification processes that are as involved as the steps required to reach type inspection authorization. It's multivariable, time-intensive, and relies on not just your own execution, but also that of the FAA. We've been at this for more than a decade, developing, iterating, and collaborating on paper and in practice. We've taken a concept and turned it into a conforming design with approved test plans and the ability to manufacture under a quality management system, all in alignment with the FAA. We're now putting the keystone in the arch. Alongside our certification progress, the global regulatory momentum is undeniable. Here in the US, the White House, DOT, and FAA are setting the pace for next generation aviation. For EVTOL, the executive order on drone dominance directs the FAA and DOT to establish programs for state and local governments to partner with companies like ours on early operations. Globally, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the US, and the UK, markets with huge long-term opportunity for Joby, came together to streamline international validation of FAA type certification for aircraft like ours. This took years of public-private collaboration that we expect to pay dividends in the years to come. I was also particularly excited that the FAA finalized the Mosaic and BVLOS rules, which opened a world of opportunity for new personal aircraft, new propulsion systems, and new ways of flying. I've been on this mission with Joby for more than 15 years. We're witnessing a global sea change in regulatory landscape that I believe will define the next century of aviation. And in doing so, I believe we are defining the very fabric of how we will live, Each of the ingredients that I have just spoken about, the maturity of our platform, the rigorous aircraft testing, and the progress we're making on certification, all contribute to our success on commercialization. This quarter was pivotal. We completed flight testing in Dubai. We reached a definitive agreement to acquire Blade's passenger business. We signed agreements for aircraft with long-term partners Abdul Latif Jameel and ANA. And with L3Harris, we're exploring opportunities to leverage our existing technology platform for defense applications. Let's start with Dubai. Earlier this summer, we achieved another industry first. We completed a multi-week campaign in the UAE with 21 piloted flights, including vertical takeoff, transition to wing-borne flight, and vertical landing. And we did this in challenging real-world conditions. We delivered sustained operations in temperatures nearing 110 degrees Fahrenheit. We gained invaluable insights about the performance of our aircraft as we prepare to move from flight testing to exhibition flights and on to commercial service. With the acquisition of Blade, we're accelerating our readiness for commercial eVTOL operations globally, including in Dubai. Over the last decade, Rob and the team at Blade have built a scaled VTOL business, operational expertise, and a premium customer experience. But the Blade acquisition delivers much more than operational experience. On day one post-certification, Joby will have the infrastructure, team, and routes to start electrified service in key US and international markets. This gives us a defensible first mover advantage and creates a competitive edge that will be difficult to replicate. We'll also have access today to a deep and loyal customer base with a demonstrated high willingness to pay to save time. Last year alone, Blade moved more than 50,000 passengers. The plan is simple. We take the existing Blade operations and we add eVTOL. This will allow us to expand route maps, fly higher tempo operations given the lower nose profile, and increase margins with lower operating costs than helicopters. And while we're waiting for our eVTOL to come online, we'll be able to build Joby's market-leading operational software into Blade to drive efficiency and improve customer experience. We have 3 paths to commercialization. In addition to the owned and operated service, we're pursuing direct sales and regional partnerships. Yesterday, we announced plans to establish a joint venture with our partner ANA. The plan is to deploy more than 100 aircraft in the region, as well as build an air taxi service ecosystem. We need pilot training, vertiports, and maintenance just as much as we need the aircraft. Through this collaboration, we see potential to build a playbook to replicate in other markets. Similarly, we're making progress on distribution. With long-standing investor Abdul Latif Jameel, we announced we're exploring the sale of up to 200 aircraft in Saudi Arabia, valued at approximately $1 billion. Abdul Latif Jameel has deep ties in the Middle East, and we look forward to growing this relationship. Finally, we announced a new collaboration with L3Harris to develop a hybrid variant of our existing aircraft to pursue low-altitude defense opportunities. To be clear, defense and dual-use technology has always been a core to Joby's strategy, a point demonstrated by our long history with the DoD. We already set the pace for VTOL and defense, being the first and only company to deliver eVTOL aircraft to a government customer facility, which we've now done twice. And we're the only company to have already shown electric VTOL aircraft can be hybridized for longer range, with our record-breaking 561-mile hydrogen-electric flight last summer. We're leveraging that history, adapting our existing platform with turbine electric propulsion and missionization. We're now ready to set the pace again, with flight tests of this new variant expected to start this fall and operational demonstrations expected in early 2026 with government customers. With our existing production capability, we're confident we can move quickly from demonstration to deployment, a testament to the value of a dual-use approach. We also see this work benefiting our commercial operations. The work we'll do to mature vehicle-level autonomy and turbine electric powertrains can feed back into our commercial business, allowing for commercial products that are faster and longer range. This work comes at a critical time in the retooling of US and allied defense. The DoD has requested $9.4 billion in the FY26 budget to advance uncrewed and remotely operated aircraft, and we see significant opportunity for Joby and our partners. As our path to certification and commercialization becomes increasingly clear, our next challenge will be scaling production capacity to meet demand. And as I've said before, this is not an easy task, but it is one that we're well placed to tackle. I'm incredibly proud of the progress we've already made to establish conforming production lines. And with our first TIA aircraft moving to final assembly, I'm confident we're leading the way. The expansion of our Marina facility is an important step on the road to scale. It will double our production capacity to 24 aircraft per year. And our Dayton facility is now coming online. This dual site strategy is designed to scale horizontally and eventually produce up to 500 aircraft per year. As an engineer, I care very deeply about manufacturing, and I love walking the manufacturing floors to see where we can drive process and efficiency improvements from the current line, including adding automation to reduce cost and increase efficiency and throughput. We're only at the beginning of the S-curve, so while early improvements will be significant, they won't be easy. But the base we are building from is strong. We're leading the way on production conforming lines. We're leading the way on ramping production. And of course, we have Toyota, the world's leading automaker, at our side. Rodrigo, over to you.
Thanks, Joe Ben, and hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be joining Joby at such a pivotal time. What brought me here is simple. This is a company building a reality that does not exist today. Joby will make air travel an everyday reality, but that's not an easy task. The team is solving hard problems with rigor, from certification to manufacturing to global deployment. What stood out to me is the rare alignment of vision, execution, and capital. We have a strong balance sheet, long-term partners, and a team that understands how to turn bold ideas into tangible outcomes. In every conversation I had before joining, whether with engineers, test pilots, or operating leaders, I saw the same thing: quiet excellence and relentless focus. In my first few weeks on the job, I witnessed the team coming together to deliver the historic Dubai flights with precision, intensity, and pride. It showed me what this company is made of. As a newcomer, I can say with high conviction, this is the real deal. As CFO, my focus is very clear. Number one, ensure we scale methodically. Number two, stay disciplined with capital. And number three, translate our technical and regulatory progress into long-term value. Now, shifting to our Q2 financial results. We ended the second quarter of 2025 with cash and short-term investments totaling $991 million. We closed the first $250 million tranche from Toyota and received an additional $41 million through our ATM facility. Our Q2 2025 use of cash totaled $112 million, $10 million lower than last quarter, primarily due to having one less payroll run in the quarter, partially offset by growth in operating expenses. This spending also included about $12 million on property and equipment. We remain on track with our full year 2025 guidance of $500 million to $540 million in use of cash, excluding any potential impact from our proposed acquisition of Blade's passenger business. On a GAAP basis, we reported a Q2 net loss of $325 million, which includes a $168 million operating loss and a $157 million non-operating loss, both impacted by non-cash items. The net loss was $242 million higher than the prior quarter, primarily due to an increase in our share price, reflecting an unfavorable non-cash revaluation of warrants, earnout shares, and the Toyota first tranche investment we received. Total operating expenses for the quarter were $168 million, up about $5 million from the prior quarter. The increase was driven by higher staffing and program spend to support key milestones, including progress on the final assembly of our first TIA aircraft. Adjusted EBITDA, a non-GAAP metric that we reconcile to our net income in our shareholder letter, was a loss of $132 million in the second quarter. This was about $4 million higher than the prior quarter, reflecting the increased spending I mentioned before. Compared to the same period last year, our adjusted EBITDA loss was $24 million higher, reflecting growth in our organization to support the design, manufacture, and the certification progress of our aircraft in early investments related to commercialization. As Joby said before, 2025 has been and will continue to be a pivotal year for Joby and for this new industry. You should expect us to keep flying in diverse conditions and locations, forging new partnerships, and laying the groundwork for support across regulations, infrastructure, and operations. You should see the closing of our Blade acquisition and the integration of their operating know-how as a key advantage in preparing for commercial service. You should see us continue maturing our low-rate manufacturing efforts into scaled production capabilities and leveraging our best-in-class partner, Toyota, to do this together. You should also stay tuned as we develop hybrid aircraft for U.S. defense, combining Joby's eVTOL and autonomy capabilities with L3Harris expertise. Joby remains the only company to deliver eVTOLs to a U.S. Air Force base and fly full transition, piloted and unpiloted missions of full-scale eVTOL aircraft today. I want to be realistic about the amount of work we have in front of us. It is not going to be easy. We're building a reality that does not exist today. Our path will be challenging, but we embrace it and are executing with tangible results as we shape our future lines of revenue. Now, with our 3 paths to generating revenue in mind, let's recap. Number 1, as an air taxi operator, direct-to-consumer business, we made an exciting acquisition that is expected to accelerate our timeline. We have a strong backing from local and global regulators, and we continue to demonstrate our commitment to bring flying to everyday life. Number 2, for partner service, our relationship with ANA in Japan provides an opportunity to collaborate on air taxi ecosystem in a key market. And number 3, under the banner of aircraft sales, we look forward to sharing more about our distribution relationship with Abdul Latif Jamil for electric aircraft and with L3Harris for autonomous and hybrid aircraft. Look forward to continue sharing our progress with you. At this time, operator, please open the call for questions.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad, and a confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue.
These are the
You may
good
press
ones.
star 2
Let's see
to
what,
remove your
let's
question.
see what
from
we
the
get
queue.
for Q&As.
For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star keys. And the first question comes from the line of Austin Moeller with Canaccord Genuity. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon. So just my first question here. Now that you've bought Blade, are you preparing to, or are you planning to provide S4 eVTOLs to the local charter operators that own those helicopters and have a similar model to Blade, or are you still planning to operate and own the aircraft yourselves?
Thanks a lot, Austin. This is Joby. We're going to remain flexible on that. Here in the U.S., we do have a preference for retaining the long-term free cash flow and the long-term revenues from the passenger service, but we do see Blade's asset-light model as being a valuable one. I think as you look at our partnership with ANA, where our operation in Japan will be co-owned, that also gives us the opportunity to pull forward revenue. And then, of course, with our distribution partnership with Abdul Latif Jameel and in Saudi Arabia, where we could be potentially selling aircraft. And again, that would be another way to pull forward revenue. So we do see a balance, and we see the model that Blade has as giving us flexibility, and thank you for highlighting that opportunity.
Okay, and just to follow up on the TIA aircraft that you're constructing, are you able to discuss what the specs of that are, like the maximum takeoff weight, or if you stretch the fuselage at all? And the 6 aircraft that you're building for TIA testing, they're all expected to have different percentages of conforming parts to perform specific tests, correct?
Yeah, so a couple of clarifications there. One, the aircraft is nearly identical to the aircraft that we've been flying before, but I really want to pound the table on how exciting this moment is. This is the culmination of more than a decade of hard work from the Joby team and close collaboration with the FAA. In order to build this aircraft, we had FAA DARs on the factory floor with us regularly doing inspections, and they're inspecting the build of the aircraft against our quality systems. They're and again, this is the finish line, right? We are the aircraft that we're building is, before we can even start building it, we had to have a design that met all of the certification standards that we'd agreed to through phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the certification program. So all the progress that we've been reporting to you each quarter against stage 1, against stage 2, against 3 and 4, that has all built to this moment. All of the work that we've done maturing our manufacturing systems and processes, that has built to this moment. And so, as I said in my prepared remarks, this is us putting the keystone in the arch. This is preparing for this really magical moment when this aircraft takes to the air, and then with Joby pilots, and then we do for-credit flights for certification credit with the FAA pilots on board. And so we're so proud, and I really want to emphasize what a big deal this is for the whole Joby team. And yeah, really just so grateful. And it's a huge day for us today.
Very exciting. Thanks for the color, Joe.
The next question comes from the line of Kristine Liwag with Morgan Stanley. Please proceed.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. And you've had a very, very jam-packed quarter, so congrats on all these milestones. I mean, with the acquisition of the Blade network, can you talk about how you're thinking about your first initial commercial service in the U.S.? How did that change now that you own Blade? And where would you see your first initial cities where you're serving in the U.S. After this acquisition?
Thank you so much, Kristine. So we do see incredible demand and incredible opportunities in markets across the country and around the world. But this acquisition of Blade really supercharges our operations in New York with an incredible existing operations team with amazing vertiport infrastructure, with exclusive lounges, with a loyal customer base, and we're just absolutely thrilled with the way that we believe this will allow us to really ramp our operations in New York much faster than we had previously planned on.
Being based in New York, very excited to see that come to fruition. And following up on the certification regarding, I guess, airspace usage. So have you sorted with the municipalities in New York about the ability to use the Joby aircraft in these vertiports? Is that all sorted? Are you just waiting for the aircraft certification now? Or are there additional approvals you need before you enter into service there?
So we don't expect any additional work on the airspace side beyond what the blade operations currently entail. We work very closely with air traffic controllers in multiple markets across the country, and we've been doing really groundbreaking planning into for new vertiports. I'd also love to highlight the incredible work that the FAA is doing, and that Secretary Sean Duffy has spoken about on enhancing and modernizing our air traffic control framework. So we think that's really fantastic and exciting. I want to remind folks that once we get type certification, we also need to take and put our Joby aircraft onto a Part 135 operating certificate before we begin passenger service. We do have the opportunity to do air tours prior to the aircraft going on the 135, but that is an additional step on top of the type certification.
Great, that's wonderful. And just following up lastly on the type certification, you said you're 75% of the way through for stage 4. Can you talk about the remaining 25%? What is there left to do? And what would the stage 5 process look like?
Yeah, just one correction. On the Joby side, we're 70% complete. And so the remaining 30% will come in over the next year or so as we progress the final pieces there. But I want to be really clear that we do not need to be at 100% on stage 4 prior to beginning the TIA work. So some of those stage 4 pieces are not required for the TIA flight test. So we're at a very, very strong place, both on the Joby side and on the FAA side, to deliver on our goals of beginning the TIA flight test with FAA pilots on board early next year. So the momentum is just absolutely phenomenal, and we're so grateful to the FAA for the incredible lean in that they've shown for many quarters in a row here, just really going above and beyond.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and congratulations again on your progress.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. And the next question comes from the line of Bill Peterson with JP Morgan. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Really a lot of terrific progress in the last quarter. I'd like to start off with the first question on Blade and maybe expand it from some of the prior questions. So I guess, what is the specific plans for expanding the passenger business currently in New York and Southern Europe? Do you see any additional opportunities for passenger to expand in other parts in the world or other cities in the U.S.? And again, this is assuming with helicopters first. And what does the team plan to do with the Blades jet and other business that seems like on face value maybe has a little bit less synergies?
Thanks a lot, Bill. This is Paul. So we do actually see opportunities to continue to expand Blade's existing business even ahead of certification of our aircraft. But look, that wasn't the reason for the acquisition. The reason for the acquisition is that, the big limitation of that business has been their ability, essentially the sort of vehicles that they were using. We think we've got an opportunity to both expand the route map, lower cost or sort of increase margin, and in turn fly higher temporal operations given the lower noise profile of our vehicle. So those, I think, are really the pieces that are going to be important to kind of more rapidly kind of taking full advantage of the important groundwork that Rob and the team at Blade have laid.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. And then for my second question, given the call out around the DoD's budget request for $9.4 billion for autonomous and hybrid aircraft, what do you think this can translate in terms of opportunity for Joby? I guess could this help fund R&D work or specific contracts or something else we should be looking at?
Thanks a lot, Bill. This is Paul again. So, two pieces to your question. Look, along the way, there's always opportunities for R&D funding to essentially offset some of the work that's necessary to deliver on the vehicles that we're talking about. That's been a strategy that we've used very effectively over the course of our engagements with DoD over the last 6 or 7 years. But most importantly, and I think what you should see in the announcement with L3, is that we're sort of taking the next step in terms of missionizing this aircraft for the right use cases kind of against key contracts, whether existing or future, that are matched against the capability gaps for different branches. And we're really pleased to be working with L3 on that front. Because of the depth of their engagement with many of these customers, they have a very strong understanding of kind of where those gaps are. And over the course of both the flight demonstrations in the fall, and even more importantly, the demonstrations with customers early next year, that's going to, I think, be the opportunity to sort of open up the commercialization effort in a very significant way with the DoD.
Perfect. Again, great progress. I'll pass it on. You can go on for a lot more questions, but I want to be mindful for the rest of the analysts.
The next question comes from the line of Chris Pierce with Needham & Company. Please proceed.
Hey, you guys recently updated us on the Marina facility. I was wondering when, and sorry if I missed this, but when might we hear more about the Ohio facility and more scaled production? I understand you don't want to produce these things at scale until you're further down the road with certification. So this is a sort of a backdoor way to ask about certification timing. But I guess when might we hear about Ohio manufacturing cadence, margin on the OEM side of the business? Just kind of details around that would be helpful for modeling.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So as I mentioned previously, we're really trying to think about this in a multi-site, horizontal, scaled approach. First, with Marina, we are thrilled with the timeline that we were able to build and begin to populate our manufacturing, our larger manufacturing facility there, more than doubling our manufacturing footprint in Marina. And also really pleased with the work that the team is doing to mature and accelerate the build rate of both the components and the aircraft. Just today, got a report that we had manufactured 18,000 components in July alone. So it shows that we're, Joby manufacturing globally is just hitting its stride and becoming more and more efficient and more productive. With regard to your question about Ohio, we're thrilled with the acquisition of our first building there and the build out of that. We're thrilled to be building our team in Ohio, doing training, and can't wait for parts to start coming out of that facility. And also extremely excited about opportunities to continue to expand our Ohio footprint and the the incredible support we've received from both Dayton and the state of Ohio and Jobs Ohio. They've been absolutely spectacular partners for us.
Okay, appreciate the detail. On slide 8, when you talked about Dubai, you're talking about this one vertiport in the first quarter of 26. Does that get back to Part 135 and touring, where it might be a kind of something you can do with passengers in the first quarter of 26, but then you need further build out in like hotels or things like that? Or is there already infrastructure to land these things with passengers? Like, I just want to get a sense of what needs to be done beyond what's in the letter to kind of start higher tempo passenger flight in Dubai.
It's a great question. I think one of the amazing things about our the flights that we did over there is that some of our key partners and potential partners were able to come and see flights, and including many folks on the real estate and real estate development side, and the amount of interest and the excitement from real estate developers, both in Dubai and around the world, has never been greater. The ability to have a quiet electric aircraft land at your development and deliver folks, for example, from the airport to the Palm in a matter of minutes rather than nearly an hour, that's a game changer. And so we do see really significant momentum in opening up additional takeoff and landing locations. Additionally, as I believe you're aware, our partner for building the vertiports in Dubai is Skyports, and they're making fantastic progress alongside RTA, the Roads and Transport Authority, in planning and building out the network of vertiports in Dubai. And so we, as you mentioned, the first vertiport that broke ground at DXB, the airport there, is making great progress, and we're really excited to bring additional nodes online in the Dubai network, and thrilled with the momentum we're seeing in Dubai overall.
Okay, and then just lastly on Blade, is it fair to say that Blade didn't have any exclusive properties, but you gained a potential first mover advantage, or is there more to it than that?
So Blade one has a number of exclusive lounges. Two, the real estate available at many of these vertiports is quite limited, and so it's valuable to have a place for passengers to wait out of the sun, out of the rain, while they're getting ready to board their flight. So we do feel like although many of these sites are public access, having a lounge and a facility at those locations is extraordinarily valuable. Two, Blade also has a large network of takeoff and landing locations in Europe, and as well as the greater New York area. And we think that network of takeoff and landing locations is an incredibly valuable and underappreciated asset, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be able to count that as a Joby asset now.
Okay, appreciate the time and good luck.
Thank you.
As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. And the next question comes from the line of Savi Syth with Raymond James. Please proceed.
Hey, good afternoon. It's definitely an action-packed quarter here. If I can go back to the third aircraft, can can I clarify if you're out of policy completely, and this is just kind of the execution side? So like the MOC cert plans are approved without placeholders, or is this kind of being built at risk a little bit?
I would say that we are very much in the final. Yes, I would say that we're substantially out of policy, if not completely out of policy. The real focus right now with the FAA is on finalizing all of our TIA flight test plans, and really thrilled with the lean in from the FAA on that front. Of course, there's still the 50% of stage 4 that the FAA has to approve, but again, the progress they're just putting points on the board day after day. So we're we feel extraordinarily good about where we are with the FAA, and as well as where we are in terms of the design and manufacture of this aircraft. We think this is a huge milestone that we announced today, and just thrilled with the execution of the testing team. I don't know that I emphasize that enough. We didn't just finish building this airframe; we finished testing this airframe. So it's like it's going into final assembly, and it's got lots of green check marks.
That's great. And maybe along those lines, as we kind of look forward to the cert testing, I know kind of each aircraft, I think you said you'll build 5, will be designed to test something different. I wonder if you can kind of talk a little bit about like maybe what the first aircraft will be designed to test, and what we can kind of look forward to.
Yeah, so there are multiple TIA tests that we're working on the test plans that we're working on getting approval with the FAA, and each one of those, each of the test plans has a specific one of those 5 aircraft that it's going to get that we plan to test it against. There is some flexibility, but we're targeting it. And the other thing I should emphasize is that we've started building parts for all 5 of those aircraft. So some of them are, this one, for example, has now completed the testing. We have multiple others where the airframes are going through the airframe assembly process, and we're building components and systems for many of them. So we're in full swing, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that our incredible manufacturing team is doing across the sites in San Carlos, Marina, and soon Ohio. So absolutely thrilled and grateful to everybody on the Joby manufacturing team.
Appreciate that, Joe. And if I might ask a quick follow-up on a previous kind of question on the defense side, have you kind of identified any specific programs of record? And I'm just kind of curious how meaningful that can be. I know you quoted a big DoD number, but was curious, how much realistic kind of opportunity that could be pursued here.
Thanks, Savi. This is Paul. So, scoping up, this is a big moment, I think, for rethink in terms of what the future of military aviation looks like. Recent conflicts have certainly shown that, the sort of paradigm of large, expensive, crewed helicopters for a wide variety of missions may not be the right one on a go-forward basis. So we think we've got an opportunity in conjunction with L3 to essentially build something that is cheaper, quieter, autonomous, and essentially flexible for a wide range of use cases. So we called out a few, I think, in the announcement, including contested logistics, counter UAS, so counter drone, and in turn, electronic warfare. And fortunately, we are partnered with someone that has incredible payloads across each of those sort of functions. To answer your question, there are core existing programs that we are going after. but some of this is also about shaping programs in light of that big rethink that I mentioned at the front end. And what I think is very important in this sort of moment is being able to translate very quickly from demonstration into deployment. And that's where I think this dual use approach, essentially leveraging the same technologies and the same manufacturing lines that we're using for the commercial side, really pays dividends, both to us as a company and in turn to our customers in defense.
That's helpful, Paul. Thank you.
The next question comes from the line of Amit Dayal with H.C. Wainwright. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and congrats on all the progress this quarter. With respect to the certification timeline, do you have a sense of whether it's next 2 or 3 quarters, or is it a little bit longer before you are completely set up to get into operations?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Amit. Just to be clear, what we're guiding to is that we're on schedule to begin flying the TI aircraft with Joby pilots by later this year, and to begin flying with FAA pilots on board by early next year. And so that's those are the flights that the FAA pilots fly to confirm that we are compliant, and that's what gives us points on the board for stage 5. And once those are complete, then we're in the final stretch of stage 5 and type certification.
Understood. Thank you for that. And then, is the Blade deal closed for you? I just wanted to see, when we can potentially see contribution from, the Blade operations in your financials. Is it 4Q? Maybe we can see that?
Yeah, Amit, Rodrigo here. Look, we just signed, and then it'll take a few weeks to close. So more guidance when we get there. But right now, we're just in the process of announcing it. And then, as you know, very typical, will take a few weeks to close.
Understood. Yeah, those are the questions I had for now. I'll take my other questions offline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for today. We thank you for your participation in today's conference call. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.
Whoa. Wait, hold up. Let me stop sharing that. Sorry, I still had it going on there in the background. I'm very impressed. I thought it was a good call. Where should I start? Yeah, I think there's been quite a lot that's happened. And it's funny when you bring it all into one, you can sort of see that there's a bit more method behind the madness. There's quite a few Blade questions. I thought the mention of that they're going to be flexible outside of the US is most likely that they're just going to let Blade run with it by the sounds of it. And I think that's quite an interesting one. And I'd even consider now, will they just let Blade run with it in the US? Or do you think that they're going to want to oversee everything? Because from my perspective, if you're building it, you're getting into the type certification, are you basically just rewriting starting the clock again and doing the whole process from day dot if you're trying to run the whole system by yourself? Or could you maybe work alongside Blade at first and then maybe pick up a few tricks and almost like an apprenticeship with getting the systems out and sort of finding the bugs in the system? What's your thoughts on that then, Mark?
Well, I put my earbuds in. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay. I think what I heard on the call, specifically with the Blade acquisition, is how they are going to integrate into their existing operations and then eventually start tying S4s into it. And they said, And then you will always have a use for helicopters. An S4 can't necessarily replace all of the use cases of a helicopter. So I think that, but you can start to marry the two. And where I think you get a lot of benefit is just so much more profitability and margin you can pull out of an S4 because they're so much more less expensive to operate and maintain. So I think over time, you're going to see less helicopters and more S4s, and they're going to then expand Blade's operation, the Blade operation, or whatever that will be called in the future. But as more S4s come online, you'll just see more and more expansion at higher margins, and it's all going to just tie into they're basically making a money printing machine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. It was like it's multifaceted at the moment. So that and with the L3 Harris, we could sort of have a discussion about who would run it. Would it be? Well, we were saying that Joby probably wouldn't, and that they would be handing it over to the DoD. But I just noticed there, and I've actually went back onto the shareholder letter, and that it's going to be autonomous. So obviously, initially it might not be, but that's the plan for it long term, to be an autonomous, almost like a drone. Which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of in my head, I kind of always have foreseen that that's where it'll end up. I feel like it just kind of makes sense that at some point they'll all become autonomous. But obviously, with the like DoD, they're basically a law to themselves. So I can imagine that they will bring that a lot quicker, like, and streamline that process.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall, I think it was a good call. Good energy from Jobin entering the call. I think he was really having some strong sell points inside of Joby, and really talking about all the amazing acquisitions as well as the partnerships inside of the quarter that were made. Was really proud of Blade as well as his internal team as well. Very, very happy about that. For me, I would say from the initial statement of Joe Ben, and again, not to be the Archer Bull, but to be honest, this earnings call sounded a bit more like a previous Archer earnings call, where your kind of shift has been to really opening up that conversation about defense and how that can be such a catalyst for your business and moving forward. So props to Joby for being able to enter that market and be with L3 Harris, and very proud of that. And was talking about the low defense military that was brought up in the initial statements by Joe Ben there, and was talking about in and around 2026, looking to have the government customers. So for any of that money, they were speaking more in 2026. It was interesting to hear about the Dayton facility and some of the analyst questions that rolled into that as well. The financials, as Rodrigo went over, definitely was a little bit higher on the cash burn, except for the EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA. I believe that was the one that came in 24 million lower than the previous. And so kind of in line again. So they got about 991 in cash to use at the moment, and they're still going at about I would say, typical in this, I guess, between the Archers and the Jobies, in that 95 to 110 burn rate per quarter. And obviously, so then, really, for me, let's see here, 3 parts. So they were speaking to the revenue, having the air taxi, and then that would be the Blade acquisition, getting the support from the local and government regs, and the aircrafts in the skies, and that going towards, let's see, Dubai and L3 Harris. And then let's see, so getting to the Q&A, Austin, he had asked the question, over the Blade, will they be the owner or operator? And that's where Joe Ben kind of started to back up a little bit, and that's where we start to kind of get our answers peeled back, where that's where we start to learn it's a little bit more flexible. So that's where I think it's really interesting that we continue to learn about what this acquisition is. You heard at the very end of the call, it was wrapped up with basically saying that this acquisition is done, but it will take 2 to 3 weeks. So again, to see that on the balance sheet and to see the full kind of spin of that cash out and kind of finalize that deal, as well as get all of the kind of fine print of the wording, as well as they were bringing up the medical side, I believe, of Blade as well. So if anybody caught that, we're happy to speak about that. Austin was also asking about the TIA aircraft. He did ask about the max takeoff weight. I don't know if anybody caught it. I don't believe that JoBen had mentioned anything to the max takeoff weight. And one part in that I did like and was curious, and maybe we can talk just, sorry, I'm kind of doing a brief but lengthy overview, and I won't take too long, but they had the DARs on the factory floor. So that was very cool to hear, because Mark had given us the insight, a month or so ago about that would be part of the process to get these companies to get to the true TIA and get the FAA cert. And it was interesting because I was curious about this question. I didn't ask it pre earnings call, and I meant to, was about the usage of the airspace. Was that kind of like IP almost, it wouldn't be intellectual property, but a owned airspace of Blade as they're kind of traveling on the route. So I'm glad that question was asked by the analysts, just to know if any other movers are in. Again, what they're still able, with Joby acquiring Blade, what is still able to be used in those takeoff and landing areas. And, it did seem like the Blade acquisition did start to spin a little bit towards the lounges and kind of having that ability to have your passengers ready to go. So not just the infrastructure, but also maybe buying part of the experience, as well as, kind of already having that initial, just kind of set up and lounge. So that was, I'm curious to find more about the Blade acquisition and just kind of details in that versus, are we purchasing lounges to have set up for the vertiports, and when that comes, are other eVTOL or helicopter companies still able to operate on those takeoff and landing zones? Because Joby did say that was going to become an asset. They mentioned that in the questions and answers as well. And just to fast forward to Bill from JP Morgan, if you listen to the eVTOL earnings call, I really like Bill. Austin's good. I like Bill and Savi. I feel like they always ask really good questions. Bill followed up with a question on Blade. Any plans to expand? So the expansion outside of US. And just also, what does the 9.4 billion translate? And Paul was talking about how maybe some of that would go to R&D, but still we're gonna more discover on where that money is going. And then L3 missionizing for the right use cases. And then Chris asks from Needham, I'm sorry, I want to just touch on Savi really quick. It was interesting that she was just asking basically, if I had that right, were these being built with risk? So again, out of the 1 of 5, she was just kind of really trying to drill in on where any specific aircrafts being, trying to get as much out of JoBen as she could on which specific aircrafts were being used for what in that type cert. And then I heard from that, as we may have seen in the shareholder letter, that 50% of stage 4 was through FAA approval. And just to close out the Savi notes, the 5 aircraft to be tested, and she was curious what the first aircraft would more be tested for. And then Mark, I'm sure you can talk more, but each test plan would be specific to the 1 of 5. I think you mentioned stuff in that lane before, and different. Oh, and then she followed up with the question on the defense program of record being identified. So that was still outstanding. So we didn't have a true program of record. But I'll wrap it up with saying I think it was a great call, great energy from Joe. Paul stepped in when he needed to answer some of the questions. And I think, again, we're nailing down some timelines on what this specific company has been able to do and continue to produce. And with some government money open up, hopefully get some more information. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about Blade, government money, and the continued manufacturing, and one or two more. But I'm taking the mark because I've talked too much.
Yeah, so some of the, I guess the highlights that I brought in, is the Blade acquisition and how Jobin basically said it's going to supercharge the New York operations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, again, you're buying their customer base, you're buying their operations, and now you're able to mold an S4 and what the intention of an S4 was supposed to be. Its ideal use case with a customer base and routes, not defined routes, but routes that are already been used on a daily use. I mean, he said there's 50,000 customers that use Blade in a year. That's huge. If you just think of, all right, if you just had a fraction of those customers, I think with as many S4s as you can produce, you're now going to have customers. Sure. I think Joby's biggest challenge in the next couple of years, once they get through TIA and once they get entry into service, is just going to be scaling, because the customers are going to be there. It's going to be awesome. In terms of this, the question was asked about, well, the stage 4 testing, and you're only 70% through it, but now you're entering into TIA testing. What that means, I mean, stage 4 is writing your test plans and getting those approved, and they will enter into TIA testing while still being in stage 4, because that can overlap a bit, where when you're finishing out your test plans and your cert plans in stage 4 to close out that last 30%, those 70% of the test plans and cert plans that were written are now being applied in stage 5 for your 4 credit testing. So what will happen at the very end of TIA is the remaining 30% of those test plans that are now being written to finish out stage 4. So you do get a good bit of overlap there. The Ohio facility, I wish you would have expanded a bit more on it, but I think that their focus right now is just what's happening out on the West Coast. But I've said before too, I think what we'll see is that there's going to be a large capital. It probably, well, obviously not on this earnings call, but in the next earnings call, or maybe in the first earnings call of next year, we're going to want to hear things like, okay, we're this far in TIA testing. We've got FAA pilots in the loop. Oh, and by the way, we've done an acquisition for 5 autoclaves, because 5 autoclaves means that means we can bake 5 wings per day. And so that type of CapEx spending that's going to happen next year or the end of this year going into next year is going to really be a tall tale sign of just how fast are they scaling in their Ohio facility to build parts and build that out into a full manufacturing facility all of its own.
Sorry, just to jump in there quickly. So, if they do, when we do see that and they buy the 4, is it autoclaves that you were saying? Or 5, sorry, 5. So hypothetically, if they could do 24 now, are we saying that would that ramp up by 5? It would be 5 times the amount we can produce as of today?
No, well, an autoclave is just a big oven where after you lay up a composite part, you put it in the autoclave and you bake it. So it's just part of that process, but they're expensive. Then it looks like it looks almost like a miniature submarine. And they forgive me, there's a beautiful hawk out in my yard. But my point is those are really expensive things. They're really cost intensive. So like we talked about earlier, automated fiber placement machines, those are what's going to allow you to build at scale and build quickly. But an autoclave is the next step of a fiber placement machine. The fiber placement machine lays it up, and then that layup goes into the autoclave to be baked, and that's what gives you a full wings or a very large component like the fuselage will all be wound. So that's I would like to have heard him say more on that. DoD, he did give some good insight on that. Just he said, EW, electronic warfare, logistics, medevac, and the thing that really stood out for me was how he just said it's a big rethink, and
Yes.
and for the military to change courses is that's difficult to do for the military, or we're really getting into this paradigm shift, and so for him to say that on the conference call, it's I think
there's been
the
discussions.
military itself, military planners are looking at, all right, what does the battle space look like in 2035, 2040? And they're now saying, well, okay, we have all of these autonomous vehicles that we can now integrate into the battle space. And S4s are will be a part of that. So as we were saying earlier, I mean, he didn't specifically say program of record because there isn't a program of record yet. But they did say earlier that they're going to be demonstrating these capabilities at the end of the year. So I think that's going to be the two S4s that go to MacDill. I wouldn't be surprised. Those will be integrated into just different use cases that the military is going to need. And then they're going to say, all right, we need 100 of these. I mean, he mentioned 200 at $1 billion. So that's huge. That's that's big.
That was sort of where I was leading you with that first question, because I was just trying to think of, like, even if we did get an order for 200, would it take us 10 years, or is it going to be a 5-year, or is it going to be 3-year? Because at the moment we could produce 24, like, potentially.
Yeah, well, when they say this is just it though too. How quickly did Elon Musk build a facility in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, to ramp up scale, once you have your type conformed aircraft, you have your engineering completely done, you have your processes done, they've got the pilot line, which they've doubled in California. You can it's just, okay, copy this and size it up and hire the people. And I think that hire the people, or in a year from now, hire an optimist, right? So which again, can only allows you to scale quicker. Automation is going to happen at such a greater rate than what we've seen previously. I think that, by 2027, Joby's going to say, yes, we've got a full manufacturing facility in Dayton, and we're building 2 more sites so that we can now do 300 to 500 a year. And I don't see why that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
So would that be like usual, where in the aviation, where you could go from like 24 before you've got that type cert, and then once you've got it, then you could ramp up that extremely from 100 to 200s and 300s?
Well, this is what's unique is in the aviation industry is you've seen this before, where like in the very light jet market, they were trying to say, oh, we're going to be able to produce 2,000 of these a year. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. So, or it has not happened, but also these were different flying crafts. Electrification simplifies it dramatically. Where you're basically taking a third of the complexity of an airplane, which is its jet engine, and you're eliminating that. A gas turbine engine and a electric motor, you're just eliminating so much complexity and certification issues. So, I in the first time in my career when someone has made the claim that we could make 500 a year, I actually believe it. I think that they'll get there. You will see that. At previously, large OEMs that are producing private jets, they're maybe doing, I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look. I'll make a note, but to see, and we'll discuss it on the next podcast, like how many aircraft did Bombardier produce last year, and how many aircraft did Gulfstream produce? It's in the low 100s at best. So, but again, these are much more complex and manufacturing intensive operations compared to what an S4 is going to be. So, I think that you will see them meet those manufacturing target rates.
Unreal. I was just going to jump in. This is actually a good comment from Tom. It's in regards to Blade. He was saying, per the Uber partnership, Joby's air taxi service will be directly accessible through the Uber app. I wonder if the Blade app will continue to operate independently. I imagine that it will have to, because I think people get the thing is you're buying the brand, aren't you? So people want like to be trusted on that Blade app. But there might be
You're
something
buying-
over time.
Yeah,
you can start
I think
a bit like Twitter and X. Like you keep the same logo, people like still have the attachment to it, and then over time you can start changing it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what the Blade interface is, but I think they're going to optimize it. They're certainly going to, like you said, they're going to supercharge the operations. So they're going to do what makes sense for the customer and what the customer likes to see.
Have either of you seen one of these Blade lounges that they discussed on the call?
I have not. No, it would be interesting
It
to
must
see
be
one.
quite an impressive site, because they didn't like specifically mention that when they were saying they were going for Blade, and they were mentioning the lounges. It reminds me of something we were discussing with Liam on the last podcast about would there be like bus stops, or would we have like a lounge where you go in?
I think for high-end customers, it's going to be more of a like what you see at the Admirals Club, or a very high-end first class at the airport for first class passengers, or passengers paying to go into the different clubs that the different airlines have. You walk up there and there's a whole buffet, and there's lounge chairs, and there's you can take a nap if you want to and whatnot. So, but again, the lounges, these I would expect, you don't go into the Blade lounge and wait, because you gotta wait 2 hours for a helicopter to show up. You're going to show up, and you're going to, hey, I'm going to take care of, I want my helicopter here in 5 minutes, or I'm expecting it to be here in 5 minutes, and they're going to just do a little bit of paperwork, and off you're going to go.
It kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Because you're like, I'm trying to save like, I don't know, 20 minutes of my journey or 30 minutes of my journey, and it's like, I'm going to spend half an hour in the lounge.
Yeah,
that's where I could see it for like further journeys, where if it was going like maybe not in the city, but maybe for you guys it'd probably be to like the next state, or for us maybe from like England to Scotland or something like that. Like that's where you're like, it's basically like an airport sort of lounge, and then maybe going from there.
As a pilot, when I did a flight earlier this week, or Sunday night, I went and picked up a friend in Atlanta, or North Atlanta. I flew from North Carolina to North Atlanta, picked up a friend, and then we flew down to Savannah, and we had to divert into Savannah. We were going to go to my home airport, but we had to divert into Savannah because of the weather. And all of these airports that you fly into, especially if it's a little bit of a bigger airport, you fly into the FBO. It's the fixed based operator. And so I flew into Shelter, and that's where I parked the airplane. And when you taxi up, a guy comes out on a golf cart. What can I help you with? How long are you going to be here? He takes your bags. He ties the airplane off. He gives you a ride into the building. And we had to, have a friend drive us, come pick us up and drive us. But like they had a putt golf area outside, and we were just sitting there like, dinking around. I mean, because this is where if you're flying on a jet and you're coming into Savannah, that's where you fly into. You don't fly into the airport terminal. You fly to the FBO, and there is a lounge there already. So it'll be a very similar type service to that, where it's what's gonna process you through in a first class fashion.
I'll jump back in then. So Burger Holding, as always, I heard that they're trying to certify carrying one person, then try to cut weight afterwards.
That's bullshit.
Tom Vaselli thinks the same as you, Mark. Vast CNC, is their burn rate expected to ramp with the new facilities coming online? I may not have caught the details on the future capex. I think we were saying that was going to be coming in the future, in the future earnings, but it wasn't covered in today's call.
Future capex is what we need to watch for.
Yeah, and I was curious on that, Mark, too. Just there was something. It was probably a year and a half ago or so, but generally talking about couldn't name the particular item that they were getting into the factory, but just the year to year and a half lead times and, the expenses on these products. So again, when you have your cash burn rate, doing acquisitions, making moves in the right way, it would definitely be interesting to see on this next earnings call, both whether if any government contracts have come through to bring some more of those dollars onto the cash sheet, onto the balance sheet, and then also, just in the inverse, what that expense in that capex and when they think it's time to go, because if it's going to take a year to year and a half on those lead times to get those products in and installed, you're going to have to get the money out sooner. So be very interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they had to do another dilution. If they've got the option now. I mean, their market cap's they're 15 billion.
Yeah.
So if they were all right, we're going to drop the stock price $2 and pull $2 billion out of this right now. Great. It's not going to bother me as an investor. It's going to get
if anything, it would give you probably a bit more peace, because that they've got such a liquidity there just before getting over the line.
That's right.
And we don't want to be pulling back down to the 10, 11 marks and then doing it. Then we'll be in a much
right. Yeah.
And I agree with you guys, as the capital cash raises will be important. And maybe that's something to balance versus whether, they on the inside know that, the DOD or the FY26 trench may open up, and that may be a cause for, maybe holding back on the dilution. But I would be interested to know also from the Joby shareholders, how would they feel getting about $2 billion more on the balance book, which actually would put them then the industry leader and have the highest cash balance in the industry. So that's an interesting thing too. And I'll just kind of put in there, just because I feel like in the last earnings call or two, there's just been these little innocent or poking shots, at each one of them. So I just thought it was cute when he had said twice that he was putting the keystone in the arch, so that I was, and it's just like a nice pause after it, and I was like, oh, I was like,
it was a different Joben. Yeah. He's
test out this time.
Statements like, of course, when he gets into asking a specific question, he goes into quintessential engineer mode, where there's a lot of uhs and because he's thinking so hard. But when he I'm going to pound the table on this, he said that about certification.
That's like a smart move.
And they did ask the question about, oh, your type conforming aircraft, you're going to have 5 of them. Are they all going to be different? People don't understand. You don't build 5 different aircraft. You may not be all the way through a certain design aspect. So your 5th aircraft or your 4th aircraft may have that aspect integrated into it. And then you would do TIA testing against that, that particular system. But at the end of the day, once you get through type certification, those TIA tested aircraft, most companies demod those aircraft, and then they sell them at a discount to a customer. And they'll keep 1 or 2 of those aircraft for continued flight test, but your other aircraft go off and are sold. So, and that aircraft can't be sold unless it's type conforming. So so they're building on, these are the building blocks of like he said, I'm gonna pound the table. This is the keystone in the arch. It's like there's not much more to be done from a design aspect. Now it's let's get to work.
The other little dig that they do, and they've done it now twice back to back, is about they're the only eVTOL company that's delivered aircraft to the military. And they said that it was actually in their shareholder letter in the last earnings, and then they brought it up on this one. So there are just always them little digs here and there,
just letting you reminders that this is where we are. And I don't know if you guys caught the part or if we mentioned it yet, but about the it was in and around the Blade acquisition. They were talking about the Type 135 charter, and I believe Joe Ben had mentioned something about where they could do tourist flights without the 135. So to that to.
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, a tourist flight is a defined. I'll look into that because I think a tourist flight is a very specific route that you always repeat in the same place.
Interesting.
So that's a different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that because
Yeah,
a
it was an interesting note.
135 means
Sure.
it's a non-planned service. So
Oh,
someone
okay.
can walk up at any time, like airlines. Those are planned routes and planned flights at specific times. A 135 charter there is no. The airplane's just sitting there until a customer shows up and says, "Hey, take me here." There is no plan to. Okay, where do you want to go? You want to go to the Hamptons? Okay, I'll take you to the Hamptons. Oh, you want to go to Connecticut? All right, let's go to Connecticut. That's the essence of a 135. Is it's an unplanned flight service.
I've seen this mentioned a few times. I don't know if you guys know about the founder and the CEO of Blade, Rob Weisenthal, is a part of the deal. Do you guys know about Rob? Is he going to be a big part, or is it just the fact that he has grown Blade to where it's become? Tom, if you actually could let us know down in the comments about that, that'd be quite interesting to see if he is coming over and he's going to be part of the team. What sort of credentials does he have, and like what is he going to be adding? It's already it seems like the team is kicking along and we seem to be firing. As I said, I kind of left that call like I could sort of see where everything was aligning. I can see where we've obviously got the agreement for the 5 countries in terms of the UK, Australia, is it Canada, America, and New Zealand, I believe.
You got it.
We've got Blade, where Blade are operating in the EU. So is it a stage where if we get certified, are other European countries going to be like, well, the UK, the US are already certified, we can go there. Now Blade are just going to operate whilst they're over here. There just seems to be the L3 Harris, that seems to be dealing with itself. It's just going to be getting that, obviously, the type certification, and then obviously actually rolling these out once we like getting the manufacturing up to the quantities that we need to provide and make sure that supply meets the demand. And then the fact that we have Blade for once we do get this type certification, that we'll have a service provider, and we have routes that are already agreed. We have lounges. Obviously, the vertiports is the only question I would have on this in terms of can they be converted from a helicopter vertiport from a helicopter landing pad to a vertiport? Is that quite straightforward? I think we discussed this on the last.
It's going to be a function of just getting the charging capabilities there.
And
that's what I mean. So, like for me, this is like it's starting to all like sort of link. Like everything's falling into.
You're seeing their strategic
the chain reaction of it all.
Yeah, like all of a lot of the questions that we've had before, even as far as what we've done in that shareholder letter where they've done the percentages and they've made it like really easy. So it's like a lot of the questions I've had have just been answered, or we get into the real nitty gritty in terms of like you'd be nitpicking now if I had a few queries.
I agree. And yeah, I think everything was strong in the call. I think the more that they dug into the Blade acquisition, that's where, like you said, Mark, kind of maybe the engineer in Joby kind of came out and it was like, oh, I'm trying to explain this the very best that I can to you with what we have in place now. But still with updates to come as well on that. It's I don't know, it seems like a very pragmatic bar that Joby has set for the call, leading up to any of the other players in the industry, where it's very, very clear what Joby is doing with their team and their aircraft right now.
It's going to be an interesting call for ACHR now. I think it's quite a hard one to follow. And to be fair, if anybody could pull it off, I believe Adam could. Now, whether they'll back it up afterwards, we don't know. But like, if someone could pull it off in terms of giving you the sales pitch, I believe that he could. Just jumping into catching up with some of the comments, Tom saying, I'm assuming his role will include all commercial passenger services operated by Joby. God bless the USA. Will the stock plummet like a rock on opening tomorrow, or do we expect it to stabilize and continue the plunge? If last a couple of days, it's still downtrending after hours. As far as I'm concerned, like I'm not here for the day. I'm going to be looking a bit further forward than that. So, and then if it does plummet down, I'll just be buying back at more. So it just gives me a better buying price.
Yeah.
Timmy
This isn't investment. This is not investment advice, but anything that goes down at this point is you're getting this stock on sale.
Yeah. But like I even think about that with the TIA testing that you were saying, Mark. It just basically gives us another year to get in and just build sort of that share count. Because obviously we are getting to a stage now where it's come on massively from a year ago, and the next year will go like that. But
I think that Joby is in this entire space is just going to start getting an increased market recognition, just among large institutional investors. They're going to start to see what this space is going to be, both from the commercialization aspect and from the military aspect, and it's only going to grow. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what Timmy was saying here. Is saying everything is looking great, and just to celebrate, I bought 20 more shares. And fair play, Timmy. I think that's the way to do it. Scott Williams, 50,000 customers instantly waiting for a ride, and high-paying customers allegedly. God bless the USA. I'm seriously considering selling my shares. I would like to hold, but I don't have enough strength to make me believe that it's going to hold above the target price. I think it depends on how long you're looking. If you take maybe a step back and look at the bigger picture, I think we're going to end up higher than we are today. And that's just my own personal opinion. And if you're looking for maybe a quick turnaround of money, I don't know, this probably isn't the best stock to be in, because we are going to have a type certification and we need to get the manufacturing up. But if you can sort of look more on the long term, there's just massive upside. Like
you need to ask yourself, are you a trader or are you an investor? If you're a trader, sure, sell it. If it goes back down to 10, you made a great trade. But if you're an investor, everyone says this is going to be $1 trillion industry, and Joby's moat is certification. So, you look at their current market cap, and granted, they're not going to be $1 trillion market cap in 5 years, but just as this grows and grows and grows, I think you're seeing a new Apple being born.
Well, what I really like too is, I don't even know if I like it, but I'll just be honest about it. When I first was getting into the eVTOLs, I thought the commercialization aspect was very interesting. So the kind of future commercial flight, and as we kind of went through a quarter or two and doing the earnings calls, on the Hustle Brothers stream, it was really, creating the air taxi network, the future of flight. And with ACHR and now Joby, really just through the earnings call, speaking about the defense and the defense revenue that can come in through that, I think for me as the long-term investor, what I can look at is, again, I'm not just banking on commercialization to get one or both of these companies across the line, or any of the eVTOL companies across the line. Having that defense revenue, being able to fill those gaps of 2025, 26, and 27, I mean, that's just going to strengthen both of the balance sheets, or strengthen any balance sheet for any company that is able to get into the eVTOL space, as well as produce something that the DoD is going to want to take a look and get their hands on as well. So it's interesting how I came in being like, oh, this is going to be a great commercial application one day, and didn't even, it was like, I don't want to say I wouldn't have invested had I been like, oh, this is a defense play, but it's just so interesting how it has evolved into having both opportunities of those streams of revenue. Congrats for Joby on locking up the L3 partnership, and hopefully October, November. We'll have to check when their next earnings call is, when they announce that. But will be interesting, yes, to see if those government contracts really start to come to fruition by then. And I'm sure we'll hear about them, which is awesome.
And I'll throw a bone to Archer. It's pretty much, Joby has striked the line in the sand, and now we have something to measure against. When Archer comes out with their earnings call, they can say, well, this is where we are at with our type conforming aircraft. Are we in final assembly? Have we started final assembly? Where will we be? Because everyone's going to say, where are you at? So
these guys are doing it.
Because these guys are doing it. So now we've got something to measure against. It'll be interesting to see what Archer comes out with and where they're at. I hope that they're far along too. I know they're working just as hard. So
yeah, absolutely. Any comments left, Reece? Anything to scroll through? What you got? What you got on
Vast CNC, he's here every week, same as us, and he says, I've pulled out of eVTOLs for the most part, put in a small position today for the funsies, but I'm running drones and space plays heavy 324 and then diversifying back in. I think there is quite a lot of the government spending going on drones at the moment, isn't it? So I can imagine there's probably an opportunity there. And I wish you best of luck with that, Vast CNC.
Absolutely.
God bless the USA. I believe by next year, the FAA approval significant gains, but in the short term, it appears to be a major bear trend. That's basically what we're discussing about if you're going to be an investor or a trader, and you just got to choose what route.
How can you say it's a bear trend when you just go out 6 months, go out the last year and see what the stock has done? We're at an all-time high. So
and to the speed up, and I mean, again, to not in a political sense and love or hate Duffy, but again, just how front of face he has been, holding the X Twitter spaces, having the drone updates, continuing to keep us updated on really what the administration's ideas are around the eVTOLs and drones. It really does seem from my lens, and Mark, you've had a lot of time in the industry, that maybe the FAA has had some tap on the shoulder, and it's really like, hey, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 companies, whatever it is, that have these aircrafts that are, Joby has them at Edwards, so we know what they're doing, and so this is Joby call, we'll stick to that. Joby has the aircraft at Edwards. Why can't we get these certified? What is holding this up? So again, I think it's whether it's the DARs. Mark,
a DAR. A DAR is a designated airworthiness representative. They're a designated. That's exactly what it is. They are the inspector that signs off on the part, saying that the part is airworthy. So they are you have DERs, which is designated engineering representatives.
Okay.
So if I, as an engineer, do a design, that design gets signed off and gets an 8100. It's an FAA form saying that this is a conformed engineering. The engineering is conformed. That's what a DER signs off on. Then when the part gets built, it gets signed off by a DAR, and that means it's accepted. And that goes, DARs are very, very critical through that type conformity process, because they are signing off on all of those inspection steps to say, yes, what Joby has agreed with the FAA on their build processes, I am signing off as an inspector that this is legitimate. And Jobin's saying we've had, so like I personally know a DER that went and worked for Joby back in 2016, 2017. Joby was very, very, very forward looking to say, we want to bring these engineering representatives in now so that we do the process correctly. And I think that's why now he's pounding his fist on the table saying, look, there's not much left to be done because of everything we've built up in the last 7 years and the money we've paid these people, because they're not cheap, to bring these engineering consultants that have the FAA approval to accept both the engineering and the inspection of the individual parts, subassemblies, and then the overall conforming assembly of the aircraft. So
And yeah, and I would say the FAA is definitely a brick wall, and it's been a tough one to bust through. But yeah, with the SFARs and the continued executive orders that have been coming out, hopefully that's a brick wall that we're already kind of smashing away at, getting those chips in. And to the DARs, Mark, I think you had mentioned and maybe had manifested that, where I think we were talking maybe in the 3 to 5 weeks ago or so, and you had brought them up, and I was kind of curious, like, how do you know if a DAR is, on the floor of a factory, and did some research on it. It wasn't something that was specifically kind of giving you the information right away. So love that you were able to give us the information of what that is on the channel, and then to have that show up by Joby on the earnings call.
Yeah.
For me, again, as the Archer Bull, but the eVTOL fan who loves that. I mean, I'm walking out of this more, not convinced isn't the word, but this is the most confident I've walked away from a Joby earnings call, regardless of where they're at in their type certification, and kind of knowing they're always ahead in that. But just the Joby really being confident of his company, proud of his company. And really the biggest questions, I think it was hard to explain, was the Blade acquisition and just the nitty gritties of it. And it's like, well, that's very new. It just happened. There's still ink to go on the paper, but everything that's been going on since last quarter, he was able to speak to very well.
I'm gonna give my forecast, and you can roast me later, but I think it's only a matter of time till Kathy Wood flips. Kathy Wood's gonna jump into Joby, guys. Just see it.
All right. We got.
Do you think
or there's going to be some large investors coming soon?
Sure.
Do you think she'll hold both though? Because she'll
probably hold both.
Yeah, she's quite a high price for Archer, isn't she?
She does.
I thought she was in like is it $10, $11?
Yeah,
around that. I think there is some at a lower price when it was like 4 and 5s, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'd actually be massively surprised, but based on how both are performing, it's kind of it could be a matter of time.
And for anybody, just depending on how they hear a certain analyst and if that fits to their ears and their kind of authenticity tests, when HC Wainwright does a price upgrade, maybe go back and see, was that an analyst that you agree with, the type of question that he asked, and so just because there's that upgrade, just in any company or sector. Because we're studying this one so much and we're big fans of it, we're really getting to know these analysts and really peg down the ones that we think are asking those solid questions and asking the second and thirds. And then again, if Raymond James comes out and upgrades Joby to 25 tomorrow, I'm a big fan of Savi, and I think she's going to be, I can't remember the one from Palantir that's not Dan Ives, but the female, I think Bank of America. She was like super in on the analyst side early. It's almost like I see Savi, and I think Bill, for me, is one, I believe he's from JP Morgan, seems to really kind of just cut to it and ask the question. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any of the analysts come out with any of the new recommendations or buy, holds, or sells tomorrow also. Analyst rating updates.
I've noticed though a lot with analysts, it seems like they always undershoot too. Like, you have these analysts with Palantir now coming up and raising the price target to 125. And it's just like, did you just listen to the earnings call and see what the stock is doing?
3% growth. It's like, I think they can maintain the 125.
Yeah.
I think you're good on that. Yeah, not financial advice, but exactly.
Not financial advice. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I hope that, for Joby, and, they set a standard, and, obviously hope it can rise all the ships, not just the Archers, but the HOVRs, any of the other eVTOLs. I got a buddy, we'll talk about that on the EV show. So pause and you go for it, Reece. You lead the show.
I'll do a few more comments and then I'm going to have to shoot to bed, guys. It's almost
I got to stop here shortly too.
Okay.
So the earnings report doesn't look like it's impressed the overall market players. I was expecting more. I'll take that with you should make your own judgment up, because the markets don't really always reflect the earnings calls. I just sent my resume through Indeed to Joby.
There you go.
Nice.
They're going to need a factory in China to accelerate scaling outside US, especially if US keeps isolating themselves from the rest of the world. That's from Newblade. Tom Maselli said, don't forget they still have a 250 million tranche expected from Toyota for scaling production operations. VAR CNC, I did a composite cert for a Boeing supplier to research the industry. Pre-peg and manual layouts is still pretty standard because so many variables can be controlled by this process. Matt Money was here. Oh my God, it's the Hustle Brothers.
What's up, guy? Hey.
Bombardier 146 aircraft in 2024.
Yep.
Vast next for that. Scott Williams said Blade is a premier service. So that was probably in relevance to our lounges that we were discussing. Gulfstream delivered 136 private aircrafts in 2024. So I think that kind of gives us the numbers where it's a lot more difficult for that the combustion rather than the eVTOLs.
Well, it's just the overall complexity of the airplane, and the sale price. The Bombardier and Gulfstream are selling their aircraft at $80 million a pop. So you do have smaller numbers, and they're still very profitable. But I bet you Joby will be able to, especially being vertically integrated, will be able to produce an S4 at probably half of their sale price. And it seems like their sale price is being held at $5 million an aircraft. So, I mean, you're talking, straight revenue, and then the services after that. It's a very good business case at this point.
This is an interesting one. Scott Williams said Airbus H125 delivered 425 crafts in 2024, and then in brackets helicopters. That's
I don't know if it was. I don't know if that. Yeah, was it 425 helicopters? That's pretty impressive.
So we'll take the ramp number. I like it. If they can do it, Scott, I would definitely take those numbers over here.
Michael Anthony, did Joby make a profit that I haven't seen the earnings yet?
No, sir.
You might be waiting for a few earnings for that, to be fair. Newblade said, wait, the FAA cert rally and then do dilution Q3, Q4. Toyota cash will give them enough room until then. Let's hope so. But if you are up in the high teens or over the $20 mark, it might be an opportune time. He's an engineer at heart, not the best speaker. I thought he was better today, though, to be fair. I think he had a fire in his belly. The Newblade said, that's the same one. Timmy, they earned the digs. Billy Goats Hauling. The lounges are supposed to be luxurious and help you with check-in, serving drinks and snacks. The best move for Blade 2. I don't know how Blade were performing before that. The funny thing is we actually covered them early doors here. Would they going to be arrived, or would they going to be using would you be using Archers and Joby's crafts? But it goes to show they've been swallowed up. I wonder what Archer will say if their conforming aircraft will say about their conforming aircraft that they said they were in process of last February. Joby confirmed one in process, and I bet you'll see theirs complete before Archer. Almost definitely. Blade CEO that said the transformation from helicopters to Joby aircraft is nothing. It will be minimum. I don't know. I think we could disagree on that one. Scott Williams just saw a purchase of 443,000 shares of Joby, and the price didn't flinch low. Right at the 17.30 mark for at half-5 mark for $18.93. Billy Goats Hauling, look at the Red Cat for drones. Tom Maselli said she just sold last week. ARC sold 36,275 shares for 622,479. ARC sold another 57,000 worth 975,000. ARC trimmed its exposure to Joby Aviation by approximately 3.8 million worth of stock. That's interesting. I don't know if she's taking out the top and maybe buying back in.
I like Kathy, but it seems it always seems like it's a decent buy when she sells, unfortunately.
The yeah, so fun with Melina. He also said they completed 72 flights, which is very impressive. And then last but not least is Tom Maselli. That means it's definitely going up now. Thanks, Kathy. And
there you go.
yeah, it's been a great stream, guys. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks to my two co-hosts. It's been very enjoyable, and we'll be catching you probably at eVTOL fan club, or actually probably Archer's earnings call, which is on Monday, isn't it? So
that's true.
This Monday?
That's true.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, stay tuned. See if we go live. Definitely follow our X's if you guys got those in there. So we'll give as much updates as we can, and yeah, hopefully be live. Maybe do a quick recap on Sunday. See how everybody's digested it. See how the market digested it over the week, and just from the Archables we ended, I got some exciting things for Monday that, so show up early so we can talk about them and then get into the earnings calls. So, but for everybody else, yeah, have a great night. Stay happy and healthy, and thank everybody for joining us. I hope you have a great night.
Exactly. Keep the blue side up, everyone.
Okay.